Hey everybody, just a Saturday midday shout out here from the channel. I read an article recently about Matthew Perry's assistant, or the assistant culture in Hollywood. And I think it's important to discuss this because I think a lot of folks are under the impression that being an assistant is the only way up the film mountain. It's not, actually. It can make it easier, and it can also make it a lot harder. So I would really be careful about getting too engrossed in the assistant culture in Hollywood, because you may never get out of it. And a really great example of that was just this article I read about Matthew Perry's assistant and how he felt as though he may not have had a choice. Now, they weren't interviewing him specifically. It was more commentary on the assistant culture. But I've never believed that the assistant culture is a terribly healthy one. I think as a composer, we're a bit luckier or more fortunate in that regard, because the assistant culture that we work in usually at some point has us doing something we've been trained to do. A great example of this would be creating a MIDI mock-up for the composer you're working with, or working on a specific arrangement, or doing something that's somewhat connected to the musical part of the journey, as we would say. So I would be really careful when you're thinking about assisting somebody. If you can, talk to the other assistants, if there are other assistants, and ask them what the culture of assisting is like. Because I think if you understand what their experience of assisting is, you'll get a greater degree of knowledge, or a greater degree of awareness around what that job can actually entail. So again, it's on, I think I've tweeted the article, it's on my X site, X. I've also reposted it to Threads, so it's up there too. So please take some time to read that. And most of the stuff that I have experienced, not as an assistant, because I've never spent any time as an assistant. I actually did for a very brief period of time, and it was an interesting, weird job. More on that later. But most of the people I know who have been assistants kind of fall into two categories. They last as assistants for a very brief period of time, then they leave and they find something else to do that's usually more rewarding. Or the assistants that stay in the job for far too long, and it does something to them. I can't quite explain what it is. They get this sort of proxy effect, where they've spent so much time around famous people that somehow they think they're famous, or somehow they think that some of that mojo has washed off onto them, and they're really weird about it. Again, that's just been my own experience. I know a couple of people who have worked for some very famous individuals in Hollywood, let's just say, and I'm not sure if the outcome of that is necessarily a good thing in terms of how it ultimately rebounds into somebody's film career. But then everybody's different, and I know a lot of people who've assisted and who've had very successful careers in the film industry. So again, it's a little subjective, but know what you're getting into before you get into it. I think that's what I'm trying to say here. Have a great day.